I have not announced publicly, loud and proud, that I have decided to shutter and end my official podcast, Life Tuck Yourself, because I decided that I wanted to start streaming live. And my next guest, Rami, and was just saying, we're talking about, one decade it's this and another decade it's that. And we're here for it. So I'm super excited. I'm going to be doing these streams, I'm going to be talking to myself, and I'm going to be having guests, and we're kicking it off today. So, welcome. And we're going live to Substack and Instagram. So, wherever you are, welcome. My guest today is, I'm going to say it right, um, Rami Limonez. She's a nurse, a certified breathwork facilitator, which I'm so excited to talk to her about. Trauma informed coach. She's an author. She's been doing this for 20 years in the health and healing environment. And she had a life altering trauma who that abruptly unraveled the life she had very carefully built, and she was forced to start over from the inside out. A story that I know everyone here is really interested and inspired by. And what began as her own survival became a profound reclamation of herself through breath work, nervous system regulation, embodiment, and conscious perspective shifts. All the things that all of you are listening for and learning about on these platforms. So today, Rami supports women navigating trauma. So if you are working through that, burnout, major life transitions, she is here to talk about how to help you reconnect with your body, your inner wisdom, and your sovereignty. She's also written a book called Broken to Breathful, a deeply personal exploration of healing, resilience, and quiet power of returning to breath. And she is based outside San Francisco, and she has two kids and dogs and all of those cool things. And I'm just so happy that you're here.
Thank you so much, Marnie. That was such a nice introduction. It's so strange hearing it about yourself from, but I'll try to take it in. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you so much
totally,
for thank
totally
you
take it
so
in.
much for having me.
Yeah, I think, look, I've been really talking a lot on all of these platforms, and people really saying like, um, I need to change. I want to make a change. Um, we get to a certain age, and I don't know how you don't have something huge that's happened to you. But I think that people get so stuck because there's so many different modalities, and I am really excited to talk to you about how you did this.
Mm.
So I'm just curious, like, you were in healthcare and then you had this trauma and everything changed. Do you mind sharing your story and how that moment redirected the way that you approach healing?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So I did work in healthcare, kind of traditional healthcare for quite some time, about 20 years as a nurse. In the very kind of traditional capacity, mostly hospital settings all over the Bay Area, basically San Francisco area. And I always valued and I think probably what drew me to going into wellness and health and medicine, this area was the value of mindset and agency and mind body. I always was very aware of that from the very beginning. Um, I really tried as much as possible always to empower my patients to
Mm.
know as much so that they could be and have their own agency over their own healing and wellness. And I loved it, and I did all different types of nursing. But at the end of the day, it wasn't until I, in my own life, really was taken to my knees by life. It was not just one event, truthfully, looking back, hindsight's 2020, and I can see that it was about a 5 to 8 year period of a lot of big, really hard stuff. And I somehow kept on just going and functioning until I got to a point, and yes, there was one final event that was actually quite archetypal. It was so like in my face that I was like, there was a couple, but it was so much like, okay, universe, like, what are you trying to tell me? This could not just be really bad luck or really good luck or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so I can speak to that in a moment, but
Yeah.
the details are not so important, and this is now the work that I do, because as you said, we all have a story. We all have a story or stories, right? You don't get out of this life unscathed. And if you're a woman in your midlife time, which is myself and my friends and most of the women that I work with, um, we've got a lot of trauma, and we've got um, a lot of stuckness and things that maybe we would like to shift. And for me, it took like a major thing for me to finally do that. I don't think everybody does do it that way. I think I'm very stubborn. And then I learned that in order to truly heal myself, it was a couple of things. It was, no one's coming to save me, first and foremost. No one is
Right.
coming to save me. This is an
Underline
inside.
that if y'all are listening.
Yeah, this is an inside job, number one. And I also have a spiritual faith. So I'm not saying me only, me as in me, my higher me, the
Yeah, it
divine.
was your
And
responsibility to access all that
yes,
stuff.
that's
Like,
right.
that's a huge piece. I remember when I got my
Yeah.
divorce, before my second awakening.
Yeah,
But
totally.
I remember being in this dark, deep space, kind of trying to figure it out. And I looked, and I like literally looked up at the ceiling, and I was like, if you're there, God, where the fuck have you been? And this loud and clear message came back of, I've always been here. You just stopped asking.
Mm,
Right. And that's the agency, right? Like,
wow.
you're alone, but no one's going to come save you except you deciding to be saved, right? Deciding
That
to
is
do that.
right.
So
And that
I
is
want
so
to highlight
powerful.
that for people. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And it's so subtle and so potent, because so I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm either going to die a slow, miserable, awful death
Ugh,
eventually, right? I mean, I'm being,
that's what it
dramatic,
feels
but
like.
yeah, or I'm going to build myself up from the ground up, because everything had been burned away. And again, my story is crazy. It's extreme. That's why I wrote a book also, because I was like, this is too crazy to not write this down. Like, but aside from that, at the end of the day, I realized that as much as we understand everything up here in our minds, and we can do
Yeah.
mindset work and all that stuff, and it's amazing. I love that stuff. I'm a total thinker. I get it. I appreciate that. I like analysis. I like understanding why. And we need to meet it in our body. We need to come home to the body to feel the stuff and to meet it. And there can be layer upon layer at this point, right? And anyway, so my work is about coming back to the body. It's very somatic based. Breath work is the primary modality that I use, but it's not the only one. And I basically treat, yeah, anyway, it's a lot to put into a little thing, but basically I help women take back their power from the inside out
Mm.
through not just the mind, and shifting and reframing and reclaiming, because that is huge. And it's only part of the other part is the body. And I think there's a third part. I think there's a spiritual part, but
Yeah.
the heart, but the heart sort of integrates all of it, so energetically, viscerally, all so in a nutshell.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a giant nut. That is like for a
Yeah. I
supersized
mean, I don't,
squirrel. Um,
yeah, it's
so
hard to put it, yeah, into a
let
few
me ask you,
paragraphs.
this, because the I see so many people, I'm pretty much spending a lot of time on Substack. I mean, Instagram, yes, too, even Facebook, all the places, right? And what
Yeah.
I see, Rami, is people looking for strategy,
Yeah.
right? Like, that knowledge part is just such a default, right? And I'm wondering
Yes.
if you can. It's like we're trying to do a bypass of what you just said, like the icky part, the stuff we're just trying to avoid. What, in your experience and you worked with people, you're pretty sick to be in a hospital. right? So you've seen what happens if you don't do it. Um, why do people need to understand, or how do they understand, or how do you talk to people about, like, you cannot bypass this heart set stuff because the skill, no skill
Mm,
set, you can't outpace the skill set, like your heart set, if it's not there. So
yes.
when you see people
Yes.
struggling with that, what's your plea to them?
Yeah. Um, so, I think what you're saying, and I'm misunderstanding, but it's like we can do all this mindset work and
Hmm.
knowledge based stuff, right? But if
Yep.
our nervous system doesn't have the capacity to hold it, and I know that sounds very vague. What the heck does that mean? Um, and and I could explain that. Again, it's just how much time do we have? But we need to have. Unfortunately, I mean, it would be much nicer and easier if we could just bypass, but the truth is when we do that, we just delay it, and we actually just
Mm.
probably give it more power, right? Than if
Oh,
we
okay.
just simply meet it and let it. So if you look at an animal in the wild, for example, if you look at an animal that is being chased by a predator and say they survive
Right.
unscathed, they will do this shake off thing, right?
Yes,
And then they'll
yes,
just go,
yes.
they'll maybe play dead. And this, I'm referencing this sort of like concept that Peter Levine, who's a trauma
Yep.
based somatic, thought leader, wrote about. And so he uses this example. I think it's a hyena. If a hyena is chasing something, anyway, it might go into a nervous system response of freeze, which is part of fight or flight. It's freeze is the other one, and then the danger leaves, and it'll get up and it'll shake itself out. It'll discharge. It'll
Right.
continue that process, that energy that was intensified. It needs to discharge it, and then it goes back to its life, goes back to doing whatever it was doing. But as humans, we have this thinking brain. We're so intelligent and so capable and so analytical and able to do all the thinking and hypothesizing and stuff, that we have the capacity to just disrupt that discharge of energy. But energy doesn't just go away, right? It goes somewhere.
Let's
So it
talk
gets,
about that. Let's talk
yeah.
about
So
that.
it
So,
gets
by the
trapped
way, I
in our
just want to let you know
bodies.
we have 66 people on YouTube. So, hey, YouTubers. And we have a bunch of people also on Instagram and Substack. So, I just wanted to let
Awesome.
Rami know, because we were like, we're in a black box. We don't know who's listening. So, I really would love for you to dive into this about how do
Yeah.
we do that? Because I even think, like,
Yes.
even when a dog gets wet, right? And they, right, they're all kind of doing it. So, I want you to just dive in so everyone
Yeah,
listening can really get some
absolutely.
stuff.
Absolutely. So I would love to so for me, I love all the knowledge, but I want it to be tangible, right? So I noticed in my own healing, and I had a lot of new trauma, like we're talking big trauma that happened, which I won't get into, but if you get my book, you can read all about it.
Yeah,
But
Imran will put the our producer put the link to Rami's book in all the chats so we can make sure we're doing that. Okay, go ahead.
yeah, but at the end of the day, we need a way to do this. We need a practice. We need a thing so we can do it and have change. Otherwise it's just a great idea, right? And I'm a big, simple, accessible, effective sort of a girl. I like things that are like, give that to me, simple. So I noticed in my own healing that I was drawn to certain things just instinctively, moving. And I always was a runner, okay? So I sprained my ankle. This is another story, but a big ass tree fell on, pardon my French, a big tree fell on me and my children. This was part of one of the traumas that occurred. It wasn't the final trauma, but it was a big trauma, and we should have died. It's a miracle that we lived, and we basically walked away unscathed, except I had a seriously serious sprain. So for a couple of months I couldn't jog, and so I would walk for hours and hours, and it was COVID, not hours and hours, but a couple hours. And I'd have my earbuds, and I noticed that because I didn't have this mission to work out, I was much more like in the moment. And I had just gotten divorced and I had two young children and COVID and, blah, blah, blah. And I noticed that when I would listen to the music and just stand in the tree, in the light, maybe, and just listen and sort of just do what felt natural, which was to move my body, almost soothing myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Not dancing for anyone. No one could see me. I wasn't performing. I wasn't trying to get 5 miles in. It was like this. it was the first time in my life that I ever had moved and just sort of done that without a reason. And then I noticed that I would play the same songs over and over, and I would make these song lists that would sometimes it'd be one or two, and I would listen to it for sometimes 2 hours. And I noticed I would hum and I would vocalize. And I'm not a singer. I don't fancy myself as having a good voice. I sing in the shower. That's about it. But I noticed that if I let myself do this, I noticed these things. And so in my book, I talk about my lifelines. So bend and breathe are two of them. Bend is movement, breathe is breath work. And all
Mhm.
breath work is really is breathing with attention and intention, because we breathe all the time, right? We're always breathing. But when you bring your awareness to it, and then you could even bring your intention to it and shape it, it turns from this repetitious, normal bodily thing into this huge resourcing tool to ground you and to center you and to release energy. And so I started just sort of following my instinct. And then I signed up for breath work and I did all this stuff. But what I've done and what I like to do with my clients, so I do one-on-ones and I do group. And I do this. This is my medicine. My medicine is, I call it bend and breathe.
Right.
And it's some form of music, whether it's headphones, earbuds, or if you don't like music. My daughter can't stand music. It makes her sad.
Oh,
My 9-year-old, she'll only listen to certain types of music. So I respect some people don't want music.
yeah.
So maybe you can even put on headphones with silence or birds, whatever. Okay. So you choose your audio and you start with, so I go from like root, base of the body. I'll step back basically from here.
Oh, this is great. But can we pause for 1 second? So if
Yeah.
y'all want to do this,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like get a moment.
Yeah.
Like if you have a way to either add some music that's not connected to your device, whatever. But I just want to give everyone a minute if they want to like try this
Yeah.
to do it. And I love that you're demonstrating. Go, girl. Okay.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so show us what we do.
Yes. And so this is why I teach it this way, is because this is actually a tool that we can all do all the time.
Love
Okay.
it.
Especially mamas, women, men, but all of us women, we know how many, well, we're doing all the things, right?
Right.
So you can literally do this while you're washing the dishes, or, I mean, you can do this anywhere, anytime, seated, standing, walking, dancing. It doesn't matter. It's adaptable and it meets you where you are, and it regulates your nervous system, it grounds you, it connects you, it clears you, it's fun, you get embodied, you feel empowered. So this is how it goes.
Okay.
You basically have your music, you drop in. I know that can be vague, but you feel your body, you feel the weight of you, the gravity, you feel your side to side. Maybe you share that weight between the two sides, and you bring your attention first down to the root. Now I'm going to call the root like your sacrum right here to the front, kind of like your pubic bone, like your uterus. Okay. And I even put my hands, I like hands, and you just drop in with your attention. You feel, I know that sounds vague, but then you bring in some movement, you bring in your breath. The breath is just whatever it is. There's no way to be. I always recommend just finding your breath, returning to your breath. Often when we start to think about breathing, we realize that we've been holding our breath or breathing really shallow, or maybe I've been talking a lot. So I realize, I need to breathe. So you just bring your attention. You're bringing your attention to this space, to your breath. And then you even imagine your breath coming from this space. I know that's also sort of funny, but this is where the imagination comes in.
Okay.
You imagine like the breath coming in and out. So all your focus is here, and you're moving and you're listening to music. So it's much more fun with music. And then we bring in the last component. So touch is always welcome if you want for grounding. Sound. So a lot of people feel really shy So in my classes, everybody's got their own headset. And so no one's really paying attention to anyone, and eyes are closed or down. This is an inward journey. But the reason sound production is so amazing is because it does a lot of things. It expresses energy, it moves energy, it stimulates the vagus nerve,
Right.
which puts our body into immediate parasympathetic calming. I am safe, I'm regulated. It feels good, right? We're opening up, we're moving energy, right? So anyway, so we basically go, I call this like root. This is like the rooting part. We do that for, it depends. You can literally do this for 30 seconds. I do it for 5 minutes in my class.
Oh,
Then we move to this, and it's music. And I'm encouraging every time you just return to the breath, return to the sound. It's not a performance. This is a you thing, right? Then we move up to this area, the thoracic region. So it's basically belly up to here.
Okay.
Arms included. So it's belly, it's solar plexus, it's heart center. We're going to now bring our hands, we're going to bring our attention, we're going to bring our breath. I notice when I shift from down here to up here, I feel really tentative. So I don't know what that is, but I have to go slower. It's harder for me to fill in my belly. There's more resistance. So I just meet it. You just notice, and you just put your energy, your attention there, your breath there, and your sound. Okay, so now, and you still have music, right?
Okay.
The music is still supporting you, and the sound changes. And the other thing about the sound is that the sound, if you focus on the sound, and when I say sound, it's always the exhale. We produce sound on the exhale. The sound will inform the breath. You'll notice that your breathing follows. It's almost if you're a singer, you know what I'm talking about, right? Someone who sings, they're thinking about producing sound,
right?
And then they're breathing to meet the production of that sound, correct? Right? So the breath is changing to accommodate the sound. So that's how the sound and the breath are going. And then you move to this part, which is throat, head. So it's kind of chakra systems. It's throat,
Okay.
It's third eye, it's crown. You bring your energy, your focus, your breath, your attention, and your movement to the top. Okay, so I know this sounds really woo, but here's the thing.
I don't think it sounds woo at all. By the way, if you have, we have a couple comments just saying hello and thank you and all those things. So if y'all have questions, I guess YouTube's kind of going off a little bit. So if you have questions for Rami, let us know.
Yeah.
So I want to just ask you about the woo, because before you kind of launch into this next piece.
Totally.
I think that so many people are like, feel so uncomfortable in their body or making any noises or like, is anyone watching? Is someone going to hear me in my house? What are my kids going to think? How do you get people out of, if someone's like, I literally don't know what's going on past my chin? What's some good suggestions, coaching advice for them to just take a baby step with this?
Absolutely. Great question. So yes, everybody is so different. Some people never spend time in their body. When I say in their body again, I'm the girl, I grew up with total hippie parents. So I rebelled against I hated all that stuff. Trust me. Until I got into like this breathwork stuff. So I'm that girl who hates the woo normally. It totally made me uncomfortable. So I get it when people say in your body, like, what does that even mean? Right. So I had to learn that. And so that's where you can start. That takes a while, and that's okay. So there's something called felt sense. A lot of therapists, trauma-informed therapists, whatnot, use this term that was kind of, coined back, I don't know how many years ago, 50 maybe, I'm not sure. But felt sense, it sounds just like what it is. It's really sensing the way you feel in your body. So it's literally like, oh, I'm sensing right now, I'm sensing kind of like an electrical sensation in both of my arms. I'm actually sensing a little bit of tingling in my fingers, or, oh, I'm sensing some tightness in my jaw. So it's really, it takes a lot of, it sounds so simple, but it's something that we don't ever really do, right? So just starting to drop into how your body feels. And if it helps you, you could go from feet up to crown. Some people
Okay.
hear of that as like a body scan. Um, I was always really bored by the idea of doing a body scan. I was like, oh, how boring. But now I realize that the point of it is to really try to start to develop that feeling of a felt sense. When you can identify in a feeling way the space that you are occupying and be fully in your body, there's nowhere other place to be but fully present, right? We're
Right,
fully
right, right, right.
present. And that in itself can be a lot. So this practice, if you just start doing this, even for 3 minutes to start, you know, if you're
So
trying to
taking baby
taking
steps to start
tiny
doing this.
baby steps. That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's one recommendation.
Yeah, when this is so good because I think that this idea of like I'm not good at this or I don't know
Mm.
how to do this or this is for other people. Um but I'm wondering if you break it down into this idea that it takes like an integrated approach because I feel like so many people listening like have done therapy um or they've kind of done the work but they still feel blocked.
Yeah.
And so from a physical, since you're in the healthcare industry
Yeah.
as a nurse, like why does this energy need to physically move out of our
Yeah.
body? Like, why is it not like, um, you know, oh, that's nice, but more like, girl, you got to get this shit out if you want to like
Yeah.
create space for something new because you can't think. I always
Yes.
say you cannot write this one down. You can't think your way out of your thoughts.
Right. That's right. Yeah, so it's really I think it's sort of the difference between, like I said before, like human beings versus like animals that are less, evolved in a way, I mean. Um we truly just, if you don't feel it, you don't heal it. I know that's sort of like it's a
Mm,
thing, that's a term. There's this, the truth is that trauma, this has been studied, right? Trauma, which is undischarged energy, which there's big trauma, there's little trauma, there's all sorts of trauma. There's,
right.
and I know the word can be overused, but the truth is that trauma is not the event. It's what occurs when that reaction, the adrenaline, the fear that produces a chemical physiological response in our body, when it's not discharged, when we disrupt that, we go, oh, we can't shake like a dog, I'm in public. Or kids have a tantrum in the store, but you don't do that as a grown-up. You just stuff it, and then but where does it go? Right? It goes somewhere. It goes into anxiety or insomnia or overthinking or over whatever it is. And so until we allow it to finish its sort of discharge, if you will, its process, it'll keep our nervous system in a place that doesn't match our
Our
mindset, if you
mind
will.
and our goals, right? Like I
That's
hear that
right.
I'm
And so
working
you're
on
kind of
it.
in this loop. You're in this loop. So it's like the only way through is through, and but the beauty is with the breath and with the feeling and the moving and the sound, we can wiggle through all the stuff. We can
Yeah, it
feel
sounds
it
much
in
more
real time.
inviting. It sounds much
It's
more
way
fun
more
that way.
fun. Trust me. I
Right.
bend and breathe all day long some days. Like some days I'm just like, I don't know how I'm doing life, but I am bending and breathing
I'm
today a
bending and
lot.
breathing.
And
Um,
it's like, yeah.
so for people who are listening, and they're so disconnected or they're very busy
Yeah.
or they don't have time for this shit, but they want to get results and they're ambitious.
Yeah.
What's a signal that they might be ignoring that tells you that their nervous system is overloaded right now? I know that word that
Mm,
this is a really over
yeah,
talked about topic, but I think it's so important.
absolutely. I mean, I think it's I think the trick for me, I think it's finding some time to take space, to create a safe space where your nervous system is protected. So I would say a sign that maybe you really are in need of some more of that. Because, look, we're living, we're human beings. We live in this world. We're reading, we're seeing the news. It's not, you can't live in a bubble, nor do you want to, right? So, but you also need to protect your well-being. So I think it's intentional. It's sort of realizing like, oh, yeah, I do need to foster this inner safety
Mm,
and like personal oasis of resource, like not just on a retreat or on a spa weekend, but like every day, regularly. And so for me, that's the little moments. It's the breathing, it's the mind, the stuff that when you're driving or washing the dishes. But a sign that you're dysregulated, I mean, there's many, it could just be a feeling of anxiety, feeling
mhm.
shaky. I mean, it depends. I mean, not sleeping well, um, overthinking, feeling shut down, feeling like, depression or anxiety. I'm not a mental health person, practitioner, but, one could say that it's like overwhelm. It's like my nervous system is so overwhelmed. That's how it can manifest is I'm so overwhelmed that I just do nothing, right?
Right, right,
I
right, right, and
freeze.
it's
So that's
so easy.
it's
It's
shut down.
Yeah, right,
Um,
because shutdown is, like, almost like the norm, right? Like, we're fine,
yeah.
right?
And then
Where
we shut
everyone's
off.
fine, right? Because
And
it
then we
looks
just shut
okay.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't know
Yeah.
that in your metaphor of the tree, like, the roots are completely, compromised.
Yes.
Um, so when someone says they're high functioning and they're fine, like, they get shit
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
what's the difference between trying and getting through and being
Yeah.
truly regulated?
Yes, absolutely. I think probably a lot of stuff that we don't ever see, like on paper, but it's like quality of life. So that's sort of the way that
Mm.
I lived my whole life. I realize now versus now there's still shit storms. Pardon me, I have a total potty mouth, but there's
Oh,
still
we
going to
we
be
can do it. We're
stuff. Oh,
good.
good. Okay. There's always going to be the things that are like stressful and like challenging, but it's like, it's sort of just this, the difference. I think it comes back to this sense of empowerment, this sense of sovereignty. And that's my work, as I call them sovereign sessions. It's all about, it's like, yeah, life isn't going to stop for you, but I can be this sovereign little like entity that is I can create safety right here, right now, anywhere, anytime, just by bringing my attention to my body, to my breath. You drop in, it changes your physiology in real time. There's evidence to support this. And then if we just sort of can feel it, feel the emotion, feel it in our body, breathe through it, it's going to shift. And then you're going to be fine versus just pushing it down, ignoring it, which not everybody can do that anyway. I mean, I could
Right.
never ignore. I would just have a "Wah!" I wasn't ignoring it. I was just not really. And that's okay if you still have you get to still be human, but it's about having tools while we be human. It's about having
Yeah.
tools. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
When you think
yeah,
about how this the cost, so to speak, right? Like, so for people who are, because I always say, like, don't wait for someday, make today day one,
right.
right? Or don't wait for
Yes.
one day. Um,
Yes.
because I feel like people are putting this off because they're putting the needs of
Mm,
other people who are more on fire, or things that are
yeah,
more on fire because they are so good at, like, being high
right.
functioning. So as a nurse practitioner, or as a nurse, like, being in this industry for a really long time,
Yeah.
what did you see the cost, like,
Oh,
real
yeah.
talk, of being dysregulated over a long period of time that no one really talks about? What do you
Yeah.
think that is?
Yeah, I think it absolutely, plays a huge role in, I mean, we know that our emotions, our physiology is impacted by our thoughts and our feelings, and stress, constant chronic stress, anxiety, depression, these all play a role physically in our bodies. Absolutely. Um, it's hard to say. I wouldn't be able to speak to, I worked in cardiology for a while, and we saw patients coming in having cardiac events. And who's to say some of these people were in the best shape they run every day,
Yeah,
but
right. It
they had a
happens.
cardiac event, and other people, maybe they smoked for 30 years. And so there's so many variables, but certainly you think about the way your body feels when you're anxious. And it's
Yeah.
also, here's the thing, is when that becomes our normal, that becomes our normal, right? So that's why just starting with developing a sense of being able to feel what is happening right now in this moment, your felt sense, that's such an important foundation. So we can start sensing what is going on in our bodies. And it's just not healthy to live in a constant state of dysregulation, of fight or flight. It absolutely impacts all of your systems. Probably every single last system is impacted by it's basically living in survival mode, right?
Yeah, totally. And since
Your
lions
heart
aren't,
rate.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
lions
I mean,
aren't
if we're
chasing
all
us anymore. So it's,
right. That's
yeah,
right. And it's like, think what happens when you're prepared to fight or flee. Your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up. Your everything is changed. And so that's great that we can do that. That's wonderful. And we don't need to live there, right? So it takes a toll, all the stress hormone. And yeah, I mean, again, there's loads and loads of information regarding how stress impacts our physiology. Then it just doesn't feel good. Like, who
yeah,
wants
it's
to
just,
live like
and
that?
besides
Like,
that, yeah. Um,
yeah,
so as we kind of start to bring this to a close here, what's
yeah.
one thing after your journey that you wish women knew before they hit the breaking point? Because as
Mm,
I said, I had breaking point number one in my 30s, and then I had a
mm,
traumatic ski accident in my mid 50s.
yeah.
And that was literal breaking point number two. I had to
Mm,
break so I could rebuild. So what do you wish women
yeah.
knew before they hit their breaking point?
Yeah. That's a great question. Trying to think, what would I have appreciated knowing before I reached my breaking point? Number one, I think this sounds very woo woo again, but like radical self love, like giving
Mhm.
ourselves so much grace, so much more grace than we would ever imagine giving ourselves. I wish I had learned that at a much younger age, because at the end of the day, like, again, we can't avoid this stuff. You can't avoid the pain, right? But you can be compassionate with yourself and give yourself grace as you're experiencing the hard stuff. And I think that life is hard enough without also beating ourselves up and shaming ourselves and putting our needs last. So I think learning at a much younger point in life that that really that self-love is not an idea, it's actually an action. It's an action
Mm.
word, and it's a practice, and we do it every day. We do it every day. And even, what I do, teaching women to find safety in their body and returning to their breath and their bodies and finding their how to meet all this stuff. And it's not a glamorous thing. We probably wouldn't do it if we didn't have to, but we are doing it because that's how we get this is the work. This is how we get healthy and do the work.
Yeah,
And
I
and
love
if we
that.
and if we can do that with self-love and humor and grace and give ourselves so much compassion, it would take a lot of the pressure off, probably.
I love that. I
So,
mean, in the
yeah.
end, like, how do you get what you want? Like, whatever you're here for, you're on this platform, you want something. We all have different wants, longings, and desires.
Yeah.
And everyone thinks that how they get what they want is by achieving, striving, being smarter, working
Mm.
harder. And I
Mm,
brought Rami on here to
mm.
reinforce my own personal belief that while all of that is great, that's what you'd have to do when you are surviving. Because if you're
Yeah.
on the if you're running and the line is coming, like you better keep running. But like, what happens if the line stops, and like you live
Yeah.
your life differently? And so, I just
Yeah.
love your point of view about like the more in you go and the deeper you breathe, the faster you'll get what you really want out of life.
Yeah, it's really as simple as sort of it is. It's so simple. It's the journey's in. It's not striving harder. It's actually yeah, it's coming home to yourself, giving yourself grace, love, everything comes from there. You figure out your clarity comes through there. It does. Your purpose will present. Your
Mm.
people will present. And I'm not there. It's not like you just arrive and you're like, I'm there, but you start to see the feedback loop when you start living in a different way of honoring different, having different priorities, making calm and regulation. And I'm not saying I don't get pissed off. I
Right.
rant and I rage and I drop the F-bomb. I'm pissed off at the news all the time these days. And but you know what? Now I know that I know a lot of things. I know that it's okay that I feel all these things. I know that I am allowed to take up space and express myself. I know that
Yeah.
I'm allowed to breathe and move my body, and I can make sound, and I can do these things that are very basic, but they help me get through the hard moments, and something happens. You're not suppressing it. You're actually regulating in real time, and then you create space, and then life feels more joyous on the other side of
Mm.
it. And so it's moment by moment sometimes. It's not you don't just arrive, but it's a much for me, it's the only way to do this life game that we're doing.
Uh,
I don't know
thank
how I got as far as I did.
before. Well, because you can
Yeah.
run on fume. There's always more gas in the tank, right? But you do
Right.
run out. You do run out.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna put a link to Rami's book, Broken to Breathful: Simple Breathwork and Daily Rituals for Emotional Healing, Resilience, and Nervous System Regulation. You want to get this book because what Rami didn't tell us is that she woke up in a hospital with no memory of how she got there. And so that is
Yeah.
her story of how she got where she got. And in there, you'll have some breath work for anxiety, some practices, somatic tools, a lot of encouragement. And I'm super excited if you're looking for the natural way to uh, work with your depression and anxiety and heal from trauma drug free, then make sure you absolutely get the book. And then we'll also put up a link to Rami's website, which is breathworksimple.com. Beautiful website. And then we will also be sending out this recording to our list on Substack. So if you're not a Substack person and you want to get this in lots of different formats, if you are a person a short of time and you just want to skim, we'll have a transcript, we'll have an infographic, we'll have lots of stuff. So just go to marnie.batista substack.com. So come to our Substack and you'll get information, replay of this, and you'll be on the list for more lives that we're going to be doing pretty much every week. Rami, thank you for being here. Thanks for being our first. I'll never forget you.
That's so cool. I didn't know I was your first guest in this format. That's really
You
cool.
are. And so I'm super, super
I love it.
excited.
Thank
You're
you
just
for
really,
having me. Appreciate it.
you're part of the mission. So thank you for being here. Ladies, if there's gentlemen here now, welcome. Remember, it is always and always your responsibility to life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.